This is the High-Stakes Lowdown, a RotoViz podcast brought to you by the Fantasy Football Players Championship. I'm Eric Balkman from the High-Stakes Fantasy Football Hour and the FFPC. You can follow me on Twitter at Eric Balkman and the FFPC on Twitter at FFPC. Before we get into the show, I want to remind everyone that you can get a listeners-only 10% discount to RotoViz by using the code RVRadio2022. That's RVRADIO2022. Your subscription gives you unlimited access to all of the RotoViz content and tools, and it supports the podcast channel. Now, without further ado, here's the latest edition of the RotoViz High-Stakes Lowdown. Hi, hello, and welcome to the latest edition of the RotoViz High-Stakes Lowdown. I am Eric Balkman from the Fantasy Football Players Championship, myffpc.com, the High-Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, and the Better Sports Network's High-Stakes Fantasy Football Show. We are here on the precipice of the FFPC League playoffs in both the FFPC Main Event and the FantasyPros Championship. If you didn't make it that far, that's okay, because we have the FFPC Weekly Challenge available for you right now. Now, you can play in the Thursday Weekly Challenge. Just get those lineups in by 12:30 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday if you want to play in the Thursday Challenge. If you want to play in the Sunday Challenge, you have all the way up to 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon to get your team in. Pick 10 players or pick 12 players, whatever you want. If you want to play with kickers and defenses or without, it's totally up to you. myffpc.com is where to go for that. Enter for 35, enter for 200, win up to $2,500. No duplication on the lineup from the same team, I should say. Obviously, there's going to be some lineup dupes, but you cannot play Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce on the same team, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown on the same team, Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton cannot be on the same team. One player per team, but there is no draft. There is no salary cap. Play now at myffpc.com, myffpc.com. So glad for you to be joining us tonight here on this glorious Thanksgiving week. We have 3 games on Thursday. We have a game on Friday and a bunch on Sunday and Monday as well. We will take you through as many of those as we can. Tonight, we are joined by a gentleman and his crew that I have not talked with in some time. He is a winner of multiple FFPC Main Event championships and a guy who has his guys in line for a $1 million grand prize in the FFPC Main Event. Please welcome in the 15th place team owner in the FFPC Main Event heading in to week number 12. It is Mark Messina. Mark, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Why don't you introduce the crew that you have there with you this evening as well?
Balky, what's up, man? Long time no see.
You got it, yes.
10 years since we had our heart broken by Marshawn Lynch and in Seattle versus the 49ers. I don't know if you remember, but we were in Vegas and we were ready to set it off, and he came up about 3 points short of second place. Second place this year wouldn't be too bad with the 200,000, but 10 years ago it was a freaking 200,000 first place, and second place was like 35 grand, not too shabby, but good to see you. We're joined here. We've got Brent, my brother here, who kind of is our roster manager. We've got 5 teams in the FFPC, and then another one of our owners, Mr. Cade Burnson of Burnson & Burnson Law Firm. For your personal injury needs in Texas, look up BurnsonLawFirm.com.
And way to get the plug in. God, you're much more of a pro at this than I am. So congratulations.
I didn't tell him to do that.
He did not tell me to do that. He's also known as the Codfather. We're at his beautiful home here in Beaumont, Texas. Ready for some turkey on Thursday, and hopefully get a couple of wins here in the playoffs and try and make up some additional money. So, as you know, I emailed you. We've got we entered 5 teams this year. We had 3 holdover teams. And what we found, Brent was kind of our draft guru expert guy, and we did a lot of those slow drafts, which we haven't done before. And I look back, so we had 5 teams this year, and we have 3 tickets punched to the main event, which is crazy, super lucky. But 2 of the 3 teams were in the slow draft, but our best team, which is Pound Town, was in the regular 1 minute draft or whatever. So it's been an interesting ride, but our team's got hot at the right time, and we've got 3 tickets punched. And as you know, anything can happen.
Now, I promise you this is the only college football question I'll ask tonight. But are you guys, or are you not guys, are you guys Aggies fans?
No, hell no.
No.
Okay. All right. Now, so does that mean you're Longhorns fans?
This guy.
Only one in the room.
Yeah.
Me and
We
him,
got
we
one-
both went to LSU. We're tied.
LSU. That's
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's what it was. LSU. Yeah. I bring it up because this is a big week for A&M and Texas, right? First time in 13 years.
You seen those ticket prices in Cal Field?
No, how much are they?
Like get-in price is like $1,100 for upper. It's brutal. And after A&M coming off of that loss, I mean, they could spoil Texas. I mean, there's still a path for A&M technically to get to the playoff, but that's
right.
That's a long shot to say the least, I would think.
Mark, I'm gonna throw this first question to you. And I'm gonna bring up David Njoku. This is a guy that when Winston took over, quarterback for the Browns, we thought, hey, wheels up for this guy. And Njoku's one of the best playmaking tight ends in the NFL, and Winston's gonna pump the ball down the field. This is a great combination of what we're looking for here. And yet we look at what he did this past week. 5 targets. He only catches one of them for 9 yards. Now, you look at his previous 4 games, they were awesome. But he's coming off a bad game, and he's going up a pretty talented defensive squad in the Broncos. Are we getting too cute? Are we overthinking it to say maybe Njoku's not the right guy to play in Week 12, the opening round of the FFPC Main Event playoffs?
Yeah, we've got him on one of our rosters. I mean, I don't know. It's there's not a ton of good options at tight end, as you know. It's kind of been a down position this year, but man, it's hard to trust Jameis, right? I mean, he has a great week and then just follows it up with like a 5-pointer, and that team's so up and down. I mean, yeah, we'll probably start him because we don't have a better option, but I mean, the expectations. I mean, that's the whole thing in this FFPC, as you know, in fantasy football in general. You want guys that are just consistent. You're looking for consistency. You want the 30-point weeks, but God, you got to have 15 to 18. It seems like, you know, in order to be, you know, super successful and have teams that consistently put up points. Like we've had some teams this year that have gone up and down, and, you know, but we've been consistently over about 130, 140 every week. And that's the ticket, certainly when you're talking about trying to punch tickets to the main event.
So I think like the thing is with Njoku, maybe not a lot of people will have the opportunity to sit Njoku. I bring it up because, you know, I look at your squads, and the one squad you have him on, it is a pretty good team. So you're cautiously optimistic about starting Njoku this week, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. Now,
I mean, especially as you said, Denver's defense is solid. Who knows what the weather will be like? So, I mean, you know, we're not expecting a monster game, but it could happen.
And the other thing working against him, like, and this is actually a good thing for Njoku this week, that Tillman is in the concussion protocol. You don't know if he's going to play. So that eliminates another big target for Jameis Winston. Gets it down to Judy and Elijah Moore. Judy, you would think, is going to be covered by Patrick Surtain.
Playoff winner. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we could have crushed. We had Lamar Jackson had his down week versus, who was it? I can't remember who it was. 2 weeks ago. Yeah, against Pittsburgh when they lost that game. Has the down week. We've got Goff on the bench with 38, and then we had Jerry Jeudy on the bench as well with like 28 or whatever, which would have been huge. But yeah, I mean, Judy's and that's the thing. Like I was telling them kind of how it works with when you get to the playoffs and certainly to the main event. You know, you got to have players, these outlier players like Jamison Williams, like, you know, some of those guys that not everybody's going to have, because a lot of teams are going to have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson and, you know, all the big players. And so you're going to move up. They're going to move up when you move up as well. So it's outliers like a potential Jerry Jeudy that, you know, could win leagues and win the main event, quite frankly. Yeah,
well, and that's the thing. That's what you're looking for. Now, that you said it's to your left right now, Mark. That's Brent, your brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
How you doing, Balky?
We're doing good. We're doing good, Brent, for sure. Let me ask you this question about Jared Goff. So Goff is a guy that I think most people drafted as a backup this year, and yet as the season has gone on, he's sort of stepped into a position where you can look at him as a fringe starting quarterback each and every week. They play the Bears this week on Thanksgiving, and I bring this up because this is a great conversation to have when you consider the matchup is not the greatest because the Bears' pass defense is underrated, but the Lions' offense has been effing unbelievable this year. He's throwing it to Montgomery. He's throwing it to Gibbs. He's got Laporta, Jameson Williams. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm still of the opinion that he plays this week as well. So all the weapons are there. How much do you like or dislike the opportunity for Jared Goff to put up some points against Chicago on Turkey Day?
I don't have much confidence in Goff to put up points. And the reason why is because they just want to pound the ball and run the ball and run the ball. And they've been so good this year by doing that he doesn't have to do too much. And the Bears defense is no slouch this year, especially in the secondary. They can generate some points as a defense by turnovers and sacks and whatnot. So, I'm staying away from Goff and we do have him on two teams. Mm-hmm. He'll be, firmly planted on the bench this week against Chicago.
I think, again, it's a situation where, like, if you can afford it, yeah, go elsewhere. You might have Jared Goff in the team. You might also have Baker Mayfield. You might also have, Justin Herbert. Bo Nix is another guy who's been very, very good this year. And I think you can make strong cases for all of those guys over Goff this week. Okay, I want to go to the lawyer. When you bring a lawyer along, you can't go wrong. That's what somebody once told me. Now it's Grant? Am I getting that right? Cade. I'm sorry, Cade. Cade, let's talk about the Broncos running game. I feel like I brought this up with a lot of guests so far this week, or not this week, this past month. Nobody's had a good answer, and maybe that's because a good answer doesn't exist. But even if one of these Broncos running backs were to go down, be it McLaughlin, be it Audric Estime, be it Javonte Williams, are any one of these guys worth a start? In other words, should we be keeping around these Broncos running backs on our rosters in the FFPC, knowing that the only reason we have them is so somebody goes down, you can play them? Is that situation going to present itself? If we get down to two significant running backs in the Broncos backfield, do either one of them become start worthy in the FFPC?
As a good lawyer, I know to rely on good witnesses. And right now, my expert witness right here on that particular question would be this guy right here.
Well, let's hear it, Brett.
Yeah, I think you almost have to, with the lack of depth at the running back position. I'm holding Estime on the bench. I don't think we have McClellan anywhere, but you've got to back those players up and assume that down the road, Sean Payton is going to ride that hot hand like he's been doing and, do some things that, I think a few weeks ago he said Estime was supposed to start and it was a complete Javonte Williams game. So I think you've got to, if you have the opportunity to have one of the three on your team, you got to hold on them.
And Brent, I think you make a good point here with these guys being an injury away. However, and Kate, I'll throw this back to you. This is another backup running back question. We're going to have to make decisions, or I won't because I don't play in the FFPC because I'm an employee, but FFPC players are going to have to make a decision when rosters lock in a couple of weeks. And that decision is going to be people who have been rostering Isaac Guerrero, this whole time when McCaffrey's been out and when Mason's been hurt. Now Guerrero is 2 injuries away, and yet we know the upside for a Niners running back if the position opens up for them to be the starting running back. We also know that if you are down 50, 100, 150 spots on the main event or the FantasyPros Championship leaderboard, having a variant lineup can really cause you to make up ground. And Isaac Guerrero would make sense as a player that if, the stars align and the situation presents itself, you could see Guerrero going off. Can you afford to keep Guerrero on your roster? Is that still a smart decision, knowing the direction the Niners seem to be going right now, Cade?
Again, I'm going to lean on Brent on this.
Okay.
I mean, Bonky, I'll just go ahead and give you our answer. We do have Garindo stashed on a team or two. And I mean, I think based upon the options available on the wire, yeah, I mean, we're stashing him for the future. You know, I'm not confident that Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason are 100% healthy. If another loss or two by the Niners and they end up, out of the playoff picture, they may shut, McCaffrey or Mason down, and he could be a potential lottery ticket in the 16th, 17th week, So, yes, I think you have to.
Brent, are you the guy of this triumvirate that's usually lobbying for, hey, we can't cut these injury away running backs like off our roster? We have to hang on to them. Are you the president of that fan club for these guys?
Yes, I am.
So
we've been burned so many times by having lack of running back depth that if I can get like a Garindo on waivers, which we have. I'm hanging on to him just in case, for that hopeful lotto ticket, down the road. And he did pop off one time this year for like 20 points. So
and that's the thing, Balky, with, the FFPC. I mean, I don't know. I guess an argument can be made, but it seems like 20 rounds to me is super. I don't know. It seems like a lot of players on the bench. And so I don't know what the alternative would be, if there would be a fix for that. But I mean, as you know, 20-round draft, 12 teams. I mean,
you're getting
the fucking waiver wire. Excuse me. The waiver wire is almost, non-existent. I mean, it's there, but it's.
I have thoughts on this. I'll get your thoughts on this, Mark. I feel like a couple of things. Two things are true in high stakes fantasy football this year more than ever. One, I don't think there was ever like that big slam dunk, hey, I got to spend all my fab on this guy player this year. I never saw that player. I never really saw any players close to that. And two, I feel like with all the information that is getting to us, be it content providers, be it fantasy football advice sites, be it beat reporters, be it newsbreakers or whatever, I feel like the information is at an all-time high, which by default sort of makes the fantasy playing field a little bit more level, where everybody's kind of drinking out of the same fire hose. We all have access to the same information. And as a result, it makes a lot of people smarter drafters. You think about when you guys were crushing it in the main event a few years back, that to me was a little bit softer. Like you had more teams in that league or in the FFPC and high stakes fantasy football in general that seemingly just did not know, for lack of a better term, they didn't know what they were doing. And I feel like there are fewer teams than that right now. So it levels the playing field a little bit more, which also contributes to kind of a barren waiver wire this year.
Non-existent. No, totally non-existent. I don't know. I would be interested to hear Dave and those guys' thoughts on moving it to 10-team leagues. I mean, I know that it's had to have been discussed, and I'm sure they've got their reasoning, and it would obviously expand the main event with more teams, obviously more leagues and stuff like that. But man, I mean, when you're talking, or if it's a 12-team league, you make people, put more strategy into it and do a 16 or 18 rounds and have some players out there to where, for all intents and purposes, like, I mean, a couple of outliers. I can't think of any this year. I mean, he might know. Brent's kind of our roster manager. But I mean, who's been a big hit on the way? Can you name one that's been a big hit?
No. I remember years back, like you had
16 rounds or 10-team leagues. I don't know. It just seems like more strategy would be brought in. The fab dollars would be, more important and have to utilize them, rather than, shooting it on one player. I mean, you got players that can actually contribute and win you games on a week in and week out basis. But I mean, it's ridiculous, right? I mean, it's not. I mean, I haven't looked at it one time this year, to be honest. Like, I mean, I look at my roster from time to time. I mean, he's looked at it and spent our money and all that stuff. But like, who are you excited about? Garindo. I mean, we've been stashing him, but I mean.
Well, and I'll tell you this, from a guy, like I draft a ton, and I can't remember, Mark, if we talked about this before, but I draft almost all my teams in the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship. Farrell Elliott is the commissioner there, hosts the HSFF over with me on Fridays. I wouldn't say zero RB, but I went heavy wide receiver in a lot of those drafts. And I'm sitting here waiting, tapping my foot for these running backs to go down. And we haven't seen a whole lot of running backs go down. So a lot of these teams where I stash these running backs, the Sean Tuckers of the world, the Ray Davises of the world, the Isaac Guerrero, like all these guys, it's been tough. It's tough to get them in my lineup because the opportunity has not presented itself yet, which is also frustrating. So there's that.
And they've just been eating up a roster spot. But right. I mean, really, there haven't been a ton of running back injuries, and we haven't been bit with that bug. But what we have been bit with is freaking Saquon Barkley's son. Get some of that.
Wasn't that fantastic?
I mean, he single-handedly got our Swanson Johnson, shout out LSU basketball, shout out Neil Chaudhary, shout out Greg Messina on that team. But, he's just been unbelievable. I mean, the Giants, God, if you're a Giants fan or a Jets fan for that matter, but a Giants fan letting that guy go, man, it's crazy. And then it all unfolded on, whatever HBO show or whatever that was. That clip just keeps coming up, man. It's going to haunt them forever.
Now, Beaumont, Texas. Does this
Golden Triangle, baby? Firm.
So here's the thing. I'm assuming that no Cowboys fans in the house, more likely Texans or Saints, right?
Oilers, baby. Haywood Jeffries and Warren Moon.
Ernest Givens. Yep.
Drew Hill.
I was going to say, wasn't Drew Hill on that team too?
The best. Oh, man. I work for a beer company. I work for Molson Coors in the Houston area. I was at a tournament, a golf tournament that we were a sponsor at probably about 5 years ago. Warren Moon was there. And, I mean, my dad had season tickets to the Oilers for 30 years. I mean, we went travel trips growing up. We went to San Francisco, a couple other places on the road. So we were Love You Blue all the way. Get you some OA Bum Phillips.
Yeah.
Some good sausage too.
And Earl Campbell, right? For the Oilers.
Dan Pastorini.
Pastorini. Yeah, for sure.
Carlson, Commander Cody.
We're playing the hits tonight. Al Del Greco, greatest kicker in NFL history.
The greatest, probably maybe one of the greatest football golfers as well.
I heard that. Al Del Greco was a hell of a golfer. I didn't realize that. Okay, yeah.
Celebrity championships, but we grew up going to the Dome, getting some Dome dogs, and we're just here getting ready for Thanksgiving.
That's fantastic. Well, I'll tell you who else is getting ready.
Thursday. What are your expectations on the game Thursday?
Well, for the Cowboys you're talking about?
All three of them.
Well, okay.
So, 3 winners.
Okay, so 3 winners. You're talking about against the spread or straight up?
Either way.
Okay, straight up, I like the Lions, and I think they cover. I'm going to take the Cowboys. I'm going to take the Cowboys, and I guess straight up as well, because I don't even know what the point spread is on that game. Cowboys are 3.5-point favorites. And because I'm a Packers fan and I'll be at the game in Green Bay, I have to say take the Packers to cover 3.5 against the Dolphins. So
I got a uncle that's a huge Green Bay fan here in Beaumont, Texas, and they just were they were up there last weekend for the game. That was a hell of a game versus the Niners.
I was recently the end of last month. I was on a cruise with my family and my in-laws, and we left out of Galveston.
Okay.
And I was really surprised at how many Packers fans were on that cruise ship as well. And they were playing the Texans that week too, which was crazy. So I just expected a lot of Texans that's coming out of Galveston or whatever. I just assumed a lot of Texans fans. No, there's a lot of Packers fans on there, which was very cool to see.
Give me your top 3 Packers all time.
All-time Packers, I would say
20, whatever.
Yeah, it's tough because like Stars up there.
Jim, last 10, last 20.
Yeah, last 20 years.
Now you're getting confused.
I would say Favre, Rodgers, Reggie White, right? It's tough to go wrong with those 3. Favre and Reggie White sort of like changed the culture in Green Bay where they're a perennial loser. And they both came up in the early to mid 90s at the same time. And then Rodgers sort of continued that greatness. No Super Bowls outside of 2010, but it was still a magical run.
I was up there about 5 years ago when LSU. It was actually probably one of the worst days of my life. Actually.
At Lambeau.
Yeah, we went to Chicago and went to call a Cubs game or whatever, which was awesome. And then we were going from Chicago up to Green Bay. It turned out we were on about an hour's sleep. We got our ass kicked. The limo that we took was a piece of shit, and it was probably a top 3 worst day of my life for sure. But Lambeau was badass. The experience was sweet. But yeah, my uncle and some family are huge Packer fans as well, which was interesting. But yeah, it was a great place. Where are you based out of?
I'm in Appleton, which is about a 25-minute drive southwest of Green Bay. So very, very close to the stadium.
Nice.
Yes, yeah. And I want to shift it back to Thanksgiving, not necessarily talk about the Packers Dolphins, but that other game, Cowboys Giants. Kate, I'll throw this to you and feel free to toss it to Brent if it's not your bag. But I want to talk about the tight end situation for Dallas, because it seems, I think the reports coming out of Dallas, unlikely he is going to be ready to go on a short week against the Giants. Luke Schoonmaker, who was kind of fantastic when Ferguson went down. I think that was a Thursday night game where Ferguson went down early. I'd have to double check that. But then he didn't play this past week, and Schoonmaker gets the whole game. He only sees 4 targets, but he catches 3 of them for over 50 yards and a touchdown. Tight end premium league for Schoonmaker, taking on the Giants this week. How do you like his prospects as a flex in the FFPC?
I can talk about that one a little bit, but we like Schoonmaker, and he had a big touchdown. Dallas this last week, and Dallas. God, my grandfather was a Dallas fan, diehard Dallas fan. God, they're so bad this year. You know, they're so bad. They won that last game was insane. That was one of the most insane games ever. But they're so bad. So I mean, I'm Brent and Mark here, the experts, but simple man like me understands. You got to get a win. The tight end is just a great safety valve. Do what?
No doubt.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great safety valve, and he obviously feels comfortable throwing to him in red zone situations. And so, yeah, I mean, we like Schoonmaker.
Yeah, we had him on a roster this week. And
is that a good answer?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Absolutely.
Great answer, Warrior.
Yeah.
Turn to the plaintiff over here.
Yeah.
Next time you go to Galveston, why didn't you call? We could have taken you out.
Listen, if I have to take a vacation during the fantasy football season, I'm scrambling to get all my stuff done in time, and I barely got it done. So in the future, I will be sure we go out of Galveston. We'll hook up the day before.
Yeah, he'll take us hunting. We can go do some.
You have a duck guy looking, Duck Dynasty looking beard. You'd be perfect.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. It's not bad. And I'm not even a hunter, which is huge in Wisconsin. I'm not even a hunter. Deer hunting's going on right now. Here I am cooped up inside, but I'm loving talking to you guys. So it's a great exchange for me. So you guys like Schoonmaker. I do too. I'm with you on that as well.
Yeah. I mean, like, Dallas is a disaster, but I mean, Cooper Rush, like Cade said, a safety valve. I mean, and that's what's a big deal, really. And I mean, Kelsey's been so bad for us this year. I mean, he's had a couple of decent weeks, but tight ends in the FFPC are such a value. But like, I don't even know who the number 1 tight end is right now. I guess who would it be?
Probably Brock Bowers, I would imagine.
Yeah, I guess, but that 1.5 per reception is massive.
It is
in the FFPC, and so we like to take tight ends early, especially for the potential, like a Kelsey and some of these guys that get. I mean, if you do the math and get 8 catches for 50, I mean that's like 18 or 19 without a damn touchdown. I mean that's effing huge. So Brock Bowers has been obviously amazing, and I've got him in a couple other leagues that I'm in, unfortunately not in FFPC, but I mean, 1.5 per reception. So a deal like Schoonmaker, he might have 6 for 40, but that's 14 or 15.
Yeah.
I mean, a possible touchdown is 2021. That's massive out of the tight end. It seems like this year they've been down scoring, but if you can hit on a couple of them, I mean, it's huge.
It is huge. It is huge for sure. Brent, I want to throw this back to you. It's a backup running back question. a lot of people were excited about Jonathan Brooks this season, even though coming off the torn ACL last year at Texas. Then you have the situation this year where Carolina, I don't want to say they were kind of poo-pooing it or telling us to relax about the injury, but they kept pushing it back. Finally, in week 12, we see our first look at Jonathan Brooks, 2 carries for less than 10 yards. And I think and Chuba Hubbard was great again, by the way. Chuba Hubbard's been fantastic all season. He was great again this past week. If you have Brooks on your team, I think any hopes of him being a flex this season have gone out the window. In other words, he is only going to be an injury away type guy at best. Hubbard has to go down. The question, Brent, even if Hubbard goes down, is Brooks a guy you want to roll out there with his limited experience? And clearly Carolina already thinking 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have many shares at all Jonathan Brooks. So, but if I did, I mean, you just got to stash him and hope for an injury. But I mean, at this point in the season, Carolina's so out of it, they might as well just put him on the shelf till next year. And I know that there has been talks of that, but when you're talking about a Chuba Hubbard, we got him in the 15th round, steal of the draft, and is a potential league winner if he stays healthy. But if I had Brooks, I'm just leaving him on the bench.
Yeah, and I think, and the question too here is like, I'm with you, number one, Brent. And now after what I saw this past week, I'm like, God, is he even worth a bench spot? Is he a guy that I can cut for somebody else? Because I just don't know what the upside is, even if Hubbard were to go down on that offense. Bryce Young's been looking better, but still, I don't know. I think I might have to look to make sure that he is the absolute best way to spend my 20th roster spot, and that there's not somebody else better on the waiver wire.
Unless you're like streaming a defense or something like that, and you want to carry multiple defenses, there's not going to be any better options than holding a Jonathan Brooks in hopes for an injury. You know what I mean?
Right. Mark, how do you guys normally handle defenses when it gets to be the championship round? Do you like to keep 2 of them around, or you just find one that you can ride all 3 weeks?
We've been we went heavy on Dallas this year, and
we went heavy on Philly last year.
And we went heavy on Philly last year.
Complete opposite.
But that got thrown out the window after about week 2 or 3.
Week half.
Yeah. Well, we got 19 or 20 out of them week 1, and that's true. That's true. But we have been streaming them pretty much the entirety of the season. Maybe stick with a team for like the Texans, for example, the last 2 weeks, been streaming them. And, when they have a bad matchup, we'll move on to someone else.
So, Arizona this week in FFPC, they did pretty decent. We've been lucky on defenses, really. All you're looking for again. So out of a, flex player, you want the consistency, but if you can, what would you say? Like 8, 9 consistent out of a defense, you're going to live with, so we've been able to find that. And then, Dallas was horrible, but they did put up like 20 the first week, which was nice, and won us a couple of games. So all of those deals add up and matter. But streaming defenses. But again, you're talking about 20 roster spots it's outrageous. It's so much. 6 of those dudes are never, ever, ever going to see the field unless, and if they do, we're already out of it. Clearly, if we have to play them. So again, I think we need to revisit some options of 10-team leagues or less rounds or something.
These requests and these thoughts they're not falling on deaf ears. I'll make sure that the people who make the
decisions, obviously,
we're solving problems. That's what
y'all had conversations, I'm sure, and I'm sure there's plenty of pros, plenty of cons on either side of moving rounds, moving team divisions, prizes, all that. I get it,
right?
But 20 rounds is a shitload for sure.
Well, let me tell you this: a guy who's been putting up a ton of points. I'm not going to reveal. Kate, I'll let you guess who this is. but it's a receiver. And over the last 5 weeks, I'll just read you his stats. Against the Panthers, 8 for 100. At the Ravens, 7 for 122. At the Chiefs, 6 for 70 and a touchdown. Against the Falcons, 7 for 78. And then this past week against the Raiders, 8 catches, 97 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's catching passes from Bo Nix. Any guesses on who this is?
Sutton. Yes.
Cortland Sutton is correct. Gentleman and a scholar. And I don't know exactly what your shares are on Sutton this year, but he goes again. We're talking about the Cleveland matchup this week, which is not an easy one, but it's not a terrible one either. But is he almost matchup proof now, based on all those performances over the last 5 weeks? You look at Cortland Sutton. Is he a must start no matter the matchup the rest of the year, Cade?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been real impressed with him. Bo Nix, I followed him in college, and I think he's a stud. I think he's going to be a stud. And watching them play, was it the Raiders this last week?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he looks good. So, yeah, I wish we had Sutton on more teams.
Yeah, no doubt. That was the biggest deal. So this one team that we've got, that was just limping all season, who in the last 2 weeks has punched us another ticket to the main event, Swanson Johnson team. We went 230 and backed up 230 with 187 on a 5-7 team. And it's because of Cortland Sutton. Last week, for example, we had 2 players playing at the 3:00 window. Cortland Sutton puts up freaking 31 and Josh Jacob puts up 29 or vice versa. You're getting 60 out of 2 players. That's insane. And so, to back up 230 with 187 got us into the main event. And the number 2 seed. And that was the thing I told you probably 10 years ago when we started this FFPC. Every fantasy league that I'd ever played in, it was points were not even factored in, and it was all standings, right?
Yeah.
And so, to be honest, the first year that we were in there, we didn't even know we got into the playoffs because we were 5-7. Oh, that sucks. We lost that money, and come to find out, we make a run and net out $45,000 or whatever it was at the time, all in. So not too shabby, but and almost win the damn thing. But
exactly,
the deal is just so massive. 5-7 and Sutton, yeah. Like you said, what is that? Obviously it was 30 last week. So, you're talking, 25 average, 20-25 average over the last 4 weeks. That's insane.
It was. And there was a lot of insane stuff that happened in week 12. Brent, I want all 3 of you guys to give me something here, but Brent, I'll throw it to you first. What was the biggest surprise of what you saw in fantasy football this past weekend? Could be a player, could be a team, could be a performance. What surprised you most about week 12?
Probably biggest surprise was I'll go to the hometown squad of the Houston Texans not utilizing Mixon they had been.
Ooh, yeah.
We've been riding that Mixon train for all year, and he comes out. They don't run the ball. They don't throw him screens like they've been doing. And he puts up 9 points. And honestly, it kind of really hurt our top team, Pound Town, in the final rankings because with a
no-show.
Yeah, he no-showed. And with a good performance, we could have got inside that top 10 for the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of our biggest disappointments this week.
And by the way, speaking of that top 10, that's another thing we need to talk about. You gotta pay more than that. $500?
Yeah.
From 5 to 10, right? I get that the thought process is, oh, well, if you're in the top 10, you probably already got the sweep bonus. But man, number 1 out of 4,300 teams.
I will
difficult.
I will say this, Mark, for whatever it's worth, and maybe it's not much. There was a time not too long ago where there were no regular season overall prize. This is something that the FFPC added. I don't want to say somewhat recently, but it was a late addition to the prize. So for a while it was nothing, and now at least it's something. But it's trending in the right direction.
Out of the individual league, but I mean, how many teams are there? Like 4,300 or something?
I don't know what it sold out at. It didn't sell out this year. I don't think it was quite 4,300. I'd have to look it up. No, it wasn't
4,000 to be number one points is, I mean, the odds are slim and impressive, quite honestly. And one more tip to bring, to them. They should offer the history of each, like the year history should be available. You know what I'm saying? The past.
Yeah, what we do have on our website right now is the winner's circle. Now it's only going to feature the champions from all the major contests. I think it goes back to 2008. I don't think we have runner-ups or anything like that on there anymore. But that's something we could look at bringing back.
About like the final like main event standings from the last 15 years or 10 years or whatever.
Just post those up there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to go back and look. So if I'm not mistaken, last year, I think the guy who won it, I don't remember who it was, but started in like 240th. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Somewhere around that area.
Yes, that is correct. And then made a hard charge. I can't remember who it was. Somebody blew up. Diggs or somebody, was a receiver, I think, in the championship round, ended up blowing up, and he had him on his team, and he had another couple of guys on his team that had 30-plus point weeks, and it was a perfect storm of he elevated into contention in week 16. No, in week 15, he elevated into contention. Week 16, he was right up there, and then week 17, he closed it out. I have to look up who that was, too, by the way.
Yeah, see, I would like to just go back and look at that stuff. I mean, just looking at – and, we've been talking, obviously, since we've got, 3 teams in the main event or whatever. We've been looking at trying to – because, I mean, like we talked about earlier, it's the outliers that are going to win the main event, obviously. What do you think – sorry, not interviewing you, but what do you think – okay, let's say for our top team, Pound Town, that's in 15th place.
Yeah, let's get some advice from him for our team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
we're
flipping the script.
Exactly.
I like
Yeah, fire away.
At least one piece of advice.
And how it obviously breaks out with the point per average. I think we're like 6 or 7 points behind number one. What do you think it takes to win it all? If we're starting in 15th, 6 points behind the leader, what do you think you have to average on a 3-week basis?
If you're already, you still got to put up points. I don't know, man. Like, you got to be in the neighborhood probably of like 180, I would say 185. If you hit 185 all 3 weeks and you're already in 15th overall right now, I mean, it's going to take a hell of an effort to beat that.
100%. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, 180. But, I mean, that's that.
And who precisely should we start? Go ahead.
All the players that are going to score the most points. That's the best.
You also gave us some breaking news. Yeah. We didn't even know that Amon-Ra might be potentially questionable.
There's talk of that right now. He was limited in practice today. Yesterday, he didn't practice, but that was an estimation because they play on Thursday, so they didn't actually practice. There are people that are not pushing the panic button. I am not one of those people. I am not concerned. He's going to be out there, full-fledged play for Thursday for sure.
What's the line on the game,
What's that?
What's the line on that Bears game?
Yeah, I can check right now. I have it up in front of me. It is Lions. It was Lions by 10.5. It's now Lions by 10.
Oof.
So there you go on that game.
That could be a little trap for the Lions. I don't know. I don't know if they cover that.
Well, and bear in mind, not that I think that Dan Campbell has these guys programmed for trap games, but their next game is also on a Thursday when they host the Packers, which I know they always get up for. I don't want to say they're looking ahead because I don't think they would be, but it'd be easy for me to look ahead to the Packers if I'm playing the Bears this week.
In Green Bay or in Detroit?
In Detroit. It's in Detroit.
So they got back-to-back home games?
Yes, that's correct.
So who do you got going to the Super Bowl right now?
I mean, I can't get away from Detroit. By the time we get to the playoffs, maybe they're not playing the best football in the NFC, but right now they are. I can't pick Philly or San Francisco or Green Bay or Minnesota or Washington or any of these other teams over Detroit. They lost one of the best defensive players in the league, and they haven't missed a beat. I mean, they're undefeated without Hutchinson this year, which has been crazy. And then in the AFC, it's a little bit more wide open. It's hard to go against Kansas City. I am not a believer in Buffalo. I could see Baltimore making a run. I don't think Denver's for real this yeyear.
Denver
is a possibility. What's that?
Denver's definitely not for real.
Yeah, I think they've really surprised me. I don't think they're a serious Super Bowl contender this year.
No, definitely not.
So I guess long story short, I'm gonna pick the boring Kansas City Detroit matchup as of right now. Reserve the right to change.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, no doubt.
Cade, week 12. What about for you? Anything stand out to you that you're like, wow, I can't believe that went down?
What do we think?
Cowboy game.
The Cowboy game was the Cowboy game. McLaren catching that receipt.
So we've got Terry McLaren on Pound Town,
that was great. That was a miracle play. We were going nuts, and then that was awesome.
McLaren has been solid all year, no doubt. He's been a horse for us, but that 2-pointer on that Thursday night when we could have wrapped up, the sweet bonus week 11 or whatever was a bit of a killer. And then, really all he did last week, he had some points, but it was all in that freaking ridiculous play.
Right, yeah, exactly.
14 or 15-point play.
Yeah, it was an 86-yard touchdown. So yeah, whatever you're looking at there, like 15.6,
whatever. Outside of that, to be honest, he's been a question, and I told this guy over here, our roster manager, that 2 weeks ago to put in Jerry Jeudy over your boy. Who's it? Green Bay receiver. What's his name? Jaden Reed.
Oh, Jaden Reed. Yeah.
Jaden Reed scored in the first quarter. I'm like, okay, well, maybe that was a fine decision, whatever. And then obviously Judge Judy went off and kept us out of the top 10, but we'll take it. We ain't mad. We got 3 teams and $8,000 in the bank right now, looking to pile on some more.
All right. A final question here for you. And Mark, I'll let you go first on this one. And I think I know which way you're leaning, but go ahead and tell me your true feelings on this. Is there a favorite ad for you on the FFPC waiver wire this week, or are you just staying away from it because there's nobody left?
There is no waiver wire in FFPC.
Brett, is that are you subscribing to that as well?
No, I'm not. There is. For me, the Dallas defense this week.
Against the Giants at home.
Blitz, if he even plays. The Giants are a bigger train wreck than Dallas right now. You got Neighbors just completely pissed off because he's not getting the ball. I just don't know what that organization is doing. Mm-hmm. So I'll stream Dallas is on the wire. I'm trying to get them in every league I can to stream against some Thanksgiving Day and watch them carve up the Giants and shut them out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Cowboys are a fine streamer this week. I like Tampa as well as far as streaming defenses go. Seattle, they're on the road, but it's against the Jets, so I could definitely see them making waves for sure. Yeah. Cade, any final thoughts on the waiver wire? Anything final thoughts in general here tonight?
Burson Law Firm, BursonLawFirm.com.
No, I'm just, this is we're gonna solve all your problems. Here we just want to make sure Southeast Texas voice is heard.
Hey,
that's right.
Screaming.
Yeah. But no, this is fun to be on your show, and it's very enjoyable. So,
well, I'm glad you guys had a good time tonight. I'm hoping week 17 is more enjoyable than this show. And hopefully you guys are bringing home that $1 million check. 15th place overall. Thousands of other teams would love to be in the spot that you're in right now. Good luck in the league playoffs this coming week. And honestly, good luck in the championship round the rest of the way. This will be a fun journey. Keep up the great work. I'm rooting for you here.
Yeah, hit us back up, and we'll be back on this bitch when we win that $1 million. You heard?
Yeah, for sure. If you guys win the $1 million, you're all coming back on. We're gonna have a great time.
We're coming back if we're near it, and we might fly you out to Vegas if we're in the top 5.
Right, that's what I love to hear. Brent, Cade, and Mark, always a pleasure. Thanks so much. Good luck the rest of your way. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you.
You got it. Thank you. That is Mark Messina, along with his brother Brent and managing partner Cade, hanging out tonight on the RotoViz High-Stakes Lowdown. 15th place overall in the FFPC main event as they head into the FFPC League playoffs this week, and the championship round coming up in a couple of weeks, the 3-week sprint that will determine the $1 million grand prize winner in the 2024 FFPC main event. That will complete tonight's broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, myffpc.com is where to go to play in the FFPC Weekly Challenge. $35 or $200 gets you in, and you can win up to $2,500. Play in a 10-team lineup, a 12-team lineup, whichever you prefer. You could play with kickers and defenses or without. Can't duplicate any players on the same team. So one player per team on that competition. But there is no draft and no salary cap, so you can assemble your team in minutes. This was a weird week for broadcasts. Earlier tonight, we went live on the Better Sports Network with John and Pemba from Fantasy Alarm for 2 hours, talking everything about the Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday games, plus getting you set for week 12 in the FFPC as well, or week 13, I should say. God, I'm getting my weeks mixed up right now. So no Thursday night Better Sports Network show because we did that tonight. It's obviously Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We will resume that show next Thursday at 7 p.m. Right before Thursday Night Football. Fantasy Pros Pat Fitzmaurice will join me on that program for 2 hours. That's going to be a lot of fun. The RotoViz High-Stakes Lowdown will go live again 1 week from today, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, don't miss the High-Stakes Fantasy Football Hour this Friday night, a Black Friday edition. After that Chiefs and Raiders game, Farrell Elliott and I will go live to talk with another great FFPC player heading into the league playoffs and the championship round in a couple of weeks as we get you set for all things high-stakes fantasy football going forward. Play the FFPC Weekly Challenge. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live right here on the FFPC YouTube channel. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I will talk with you on Friday night. May the ball bounce your way, and good luck in Week 13. Thank you for listening to the High Stakes Lowdown, a RotoViz podcast brought to you by the Fantasy Football Players Championship. And thanks to Grapes for our theme music. Please review the podcast on iTunes under the RotoViz radio feed. It helps us find new listeners. Contact us via email, rotovizradio@gmail.com. We'd love to hear what you think, and follow us on Twitter @RotoVizRadio. And remember, you can always support the show by subscribing to RotoViz at a 10% discount through the NFL podcast homepage, rotoviz.com/podcast.